So I'm up here to introduce to you several of the youth who are going to share a little bit about the impact of our trip to the ELCA Youth Gathering in New Orleans. But before I do, I would be remiss if I did not mention Erin Halagowski, our Youth and Families Director, who made this possible. Her tireless work over the past year to bring this trip together for us has been incredible. And so it is in gratitude to her ministry that we now share. Paige Pearson, Macy Minnick, and Sam Cullum will be sharing some highlights of the trip and the ways that it has touched their hearts. So without further ado, Paige and Macy.
We are Paige and Macy, and we attended the 2024 ELCA Youth Gathering in New Orleans. We wanted to share a few moments where we saw God and felt our faith change.
On the way to the gathering, we stopped in Alabama for 2 days. Before our first service project, we got the chance to visit the Love Lady Center. The Love Lady Center is a rehabilitation center that helps women and their children seeking help after prison, struggling with addiction, or escaping domestic abuse. While in the Love Lady Center, we learned about what the center provides for the women. They receive an education to help them get their GED, free childcare even after you leave the center, free meals, and a safe place to stay. The biggest thing they offer is worship and required counseling. While we were on the tour, we were shown a wall of pictures that captured hundreds of women and children that gave their lives to Christ by being baptized. That is what makes the Love Lady Center so different than the other halfway houses. This is a whole way house.
My tour guide at the center was a lady named Rachel. Rachel had recently graduated from the center. I didn't know this until the end of the tour and would have never guessed because she was so positive and had an amazing outlook on life, and she smiled the whole tour. I learned that she was this way because she got the opportunity to give her life to Christ. The Love Lady Center gave her an opportunity to turn her life around, and now she's looking for apartments to live on her own. At the end of the tour, I got the opportunity to speak with her in a small group, and she explained that she received guidance from God, but not in the way that she always thought it would happen. It wasn't God speaking to her through a voice. Instead, she had moments where she felt his presence and everything felt right. Hearing Rachel's story helped shape my faith by showing me that there's not one way to start your faith story.
The second way that we saw our faith being shaped was during mass gatherings. Just walking into the Smoothie King Center brought tears to our eyes. We were stunned by being in the same room of thousands of other youth. I immediately felt connected to everyone emotionally. When the music started playing, we heard a lot of songs we knew and a few that we didn't, but they all made us feel united. I was very moved by the music because that is how I show my faith. Being in a room with thousands of other Lutherans singing and worshiping made me not feel alone in my faith journey.
I know that everyone that went on the gathering has a speaker that they remember because they could relate to their stories or their struggles. They also talked a lot about current issues in the world and help us navigate real problems in our lives and make us feel less alone in our struggles. You could look around and physically see thousands of other people relating to you, and that's not something that you can experience in everyday life.
The biggest part of the trip that really connected me to God is our family group time. This is a time we got to spend in smaller groups to have discussions and prayers. On the first night, my group all connected very deeply. We shared a lot of deep things that we have never shared with others. We all felt very safe in this space that was created for us. I have never opened up about my car accident on a deep level before, and I felt very comfortable to share my feelings and experiences I went through and how it shaped me as a person. This showed me that I am not alone in fear and anxiety. I had a very deep conversation with Sharon after the first night with family groups. I remember her holding me while I cried, and she asked me that if I could go back in time and change the fact that I went through everything that I did with my accident, would I? And I was confidently able to tell her I would not change what happened because it has formed me to be the person that I have become. This was very important to me because although I have always had a deep connection with Sharon, I was able to open up after having a very deep conversation with the family group and feeling comfortable.
During small group time, I saw people who I never thought would open up, share stories about their lives, and even be brave enough to cry. On the last night, we all got in a circle and prayed for each other by putting one hand on the person in the middle and going around and sharing stories and trait about that person that makes them the way they are. This was a very heartfelt and emotional time, and it showed me that other people saw the Holy Spirit working in me, and it gave me motivation to keep working on my faith journey. When it was Sharon's turn, she shared how my faith has changed her, and it made me emotional to know that me as a kid can change the faith of someone I look up to. Before we knew it, I remember Macy looking at her phone, and all of a sudden it was 3 a.m. This time with these people made time fly by and created deep spiritual bonds between people in our group that I will never forget.
As Pastor Julie said earlier, my name is Sam Cullum, and I recently graduated from Dayton Christian High School. I'm going to be attending Taylor University in the fall to study accounting. I had the privilege of going on the ELCA Youth Gathering with 30 youth and 7 adults, Ryan got there late, from our congregation, and I can say with 100% certainty that it was one of the best trips of my life. The main reason for that can be attributed to the fact that it was the last trip of my high school career. There's no more fall retreats or summer trips after this. And after missing the 2021 Youth Gathering due to COVID, it was really great to be in New Orleans for the 2024 Youth Gathering. It's a bittersweet feeling wrapping up, especially being in a mass gathering with 16,000 other youth and chaperones, and then going to nightlife and meeting youth from across the country. Every aspect of the trip was nearly perfect for me, including the group we took and the authentic cuisine we enjoyed in New Orleans. Thank you to the congregation for giving us money to go on the trip and experience this, whether you gave $1 in the money wall or made an expensive purchase at the Mardi Gras dinner. All the money it went to the right cause. So thanks again for allowing me to experience this trip with some of my closest friends and peers and learn more about who God created me to be.
So I have the privilege of just wrapping up these few stories of literally the hundreds of stories that our young people have coming back from this trip. And the way I'd like to do that is to hearken back to the gospel lesson. I don't need to stand behind this. I'm going to stand out here. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst. Jesus is not saying that he is like a loaf of bread. I am the bread of life. What he is saying is that he possesses the life of God within himself, and that his sole purpose for being on the earth is to convey that life of God to us. That gift of life is what we received at the ELCA National Youth Gathering, and our trip down, and our time in Birmingham, and our trip back when we stopped in Tennessee. And by the way, I fell asleep. I was only up till 2 a.m. that night. They kept on going in their small group. There is a way in which our physical needs are actually only a companion to the other kinds of needs that we experience all the time. Relational needs, emotional needs, spiritual needs. Part of what we learned about at the Love Lady Center was that you need all of those needs to be met in order to thrive as a human being. And these women had not had the prerequisites, not in their families, not in their schooling, not in the opportunities offered to them in their life. And the Love Lady Center gave them those prerequisites. And most of all, it gave them love, the love of Christ. That was their food that helped them to thrive. Jesus, the bread of life. And for us who maybe have our basic needs met on a regular basis, we too hunger. We don't always thrive. We can be depressed or anxious or feel entirely alone. And yet, the spiritual food is there for us too, and that's what we were able to access with 16,000 other people, mostly young people, with speakers that got to the heart of the theme from Psalm 139. You are wonderfully made. You are created in God's image. But where the rubber hits the road is the relationships that were created in prayer partners and in the roommates, and especially, as you heard, in the family groups that were led by our awesome adult leaders, Roland and Ryan and Connie and Sharon and Aaron and me. Did I miss anybody? Michelle! I knew if I didn't write notes that I'd forget somebody. Sorry, Michelle. She's awesome too. These leaders and Aaron's ability to plan ways for us to connect spiritually allowed for Christ to be living in each person and communicated to each person so that we could be truly who we are and see the face of Jesus. Receive the bread of life, the one who came down from heaven to give life to the world. I joined Sam in saying thank you. Thank you for the ways that maybe you just came to the Mardi Gras and had a good time and felt a little generous. But let me tell you, you participate in the life of Christ. I'm deeply grateful to this congregation for sending me for 8 days, 2 Sundays. I didn't realize that when I signed on. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to connect with Jesus, the one who came down from heaven to give life to the world. Thanks be to God. Amen.